So, you've probably seen the headlines. A peace deal between the U.S. and Iran is close. But what's really happening behind all the political talk and closed-door meetings? Today, we're going to cut through that noise and try to understand what's really going on with these incredibly high-stakes negotiations.
Okay, so here is how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at that official claim that a deal is right around the corner. Then, we'll get a reality check from two very different expert views. After that, we'll dig into the major sticking points, what they're actually arguing about. Then we'll explore their clashing strategies. And finally, we'll ask the big one, who really has the upper hand?
All right, first up, is a deal really close? Let's start with the official story that got everyone talking in the first place.
This whole conversation basically kicked off with this incredibly optimistic statement from then-President Donald Trump. It's looking very good that we're going to make a deal with Iran. I mean, on the surface, that sounds pretty final, doesn't it? Like peace is just a signature away. But is it ever really that simple? As you know, with international diplomacy, the headline is almost never the full story. There's always something more complicated bubbling just beneath the surface. So the question we have to ask is, beyond all the official optimism, what's the actual reality on the ground? And that's the perfect lead-in to our next part. It's time for an expert reality check. And believe me, it really complicates that simple official story. So to get our heads around this, we're looking at two analysts with totally different perspectives. You've got Samir Puri from King's College London, who is, let's just say, deeply skeptical. And then there's Ali Akbar Durini from a think tank in Tehran, who sees every U.S. statement through a lens of profound distrust. I mean, right away, you can see the huge gap and how each side is seeing the exact same situation. Puri's entire analysis really boils down to one crucial idea. He argues that Iran feels like it has fought the U.S. to a standstill. In their version of events, they haven't lost this fight, so why on earth would they sign a peace deal that makes it look like they're admitting defeat? For them, this is about national pride just as much as it's about strategy. And if you look at it from the Iranian perspective, Durini puts it, well, pretty bluntly. He says that when a U.S. president starts talking optimistically about a deal, you should be more worried. And this isn't just talk. It comes from a deep history of what they see as betrayals. So for them, every positive statement from the U.S. could be a potential trap.
Okay, so we've talked about perceptions and the huge lack of trust. But what are the actual things they're fighting over at the negotiating table? Let's get into the major sticking points.
According to Durini, Iran's demands are crystal clear. They want their right to uranium enrichment to be respected. They want their frozen assets released. They want financial compensation for the war. And this is a big one. They want the U.S. to recognize Iran's right to control the Strait of Hormuz, which is a vital shipping lane. These are massive, potentially deal-breaking issues. And on top of those demands, you have their absolute red lines. Iran has made it very clear. There will be zero, and they mean zero, concessions on their missile program. They see it as essential for their defense. And there will be no concessions on their regional allies. For Iran, these 2 points are completely off the table. Curious.
And this whole situation perfectly illustrates a classic problem in peacemaking that Samir Puri highlights. When your to-do list is this long and this controversial, you're talking nuclear rights, missiles, allies, shipping lanes. A potential agreement can just collapse under its own weight. If you try to solve everything at once, you often end up solving nothing.
So this isn't just about what they disagree on, it's about how they're approaching the whole process. This brings us to a major clash of strategies, which you can really think of as a game of clocks.
And this is so important to understand. The fight isn't just over the terms of the deal, it's over the timeline. The U.S. is acting like a sprinter. It's under massive pressure back home and globally, and it wants a quick win. Iran, on the other hand, is the marathon runner. It believes it has everything to gain by stringing things out because it's convinced that time is on its side.
The strategy Iran is using here is a textbook war of attrition. The whole point isn't to win some big, flashy battle. Nope. The goal is to simply wear your opponent down over a long, long time. Make the conflict so expensive in money, resources, and political will that the stronger side eventually just gives up. Durini absolutely nails this strategic clash. He says the U.S. wants a vertical war. Think fast, overwhelming, and decisive. Get it over with. But Iran is fighting a horizontal war, spreading the conflict out over a huge area, using its allies and other tactics to make it a long, painful, and costly mess for a superpower to deal with.
So, with all that in mind, you have to wonder, who's actually got the upper hand here? Let's dive into our final section and explore what Iran considers its winning cards. Well, if you're sitting in Tehran, you probably feel like you're holding some pretty strong cards. They claim they're just flat out ignoring the U.S. naval blockade. They're threatening to fire back if any of their ships are targeted, and their ally in Yemen is threatening to shut down another critical shipping lane. From their perspective, the simple fact that the U.S. is even asking for a ceasefire is proof that their whole war of attrition strategy has already worked. And that's what it all comes down to, isn't it? In this high-stakes negotiation between an opponent who needs speed and one who thrives on patience, who ultimately gets to call the shots? The optimistic headlines tell us a deal is close, but the strategic reality, well, that points to a long, drawn-out battle of wills, where the real fight is over the definition of winning itself. The answer is still a long way off.